trustee meeting, March 26, 2019. I'd like to take a motion to close the executive session and open another meeting. Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Nell, all in favor? 6-0. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight's prayer will be by Deputy Mayor Casale.
This is our first meeting in spring, and spring means a lot of different things and represents a lot of different meanings for different people. So, here goes. Spring is a time for new beginnings, new growth, and new hopes. My prayer tonight is that we can all put aside the dark, cold winter, and again, as with nature, embrace and be revitalized by a world of warmth, sunshine, and the promise of a brighter days ahead. Amen.
Amen.
We've got a packed house tonight. A lot of exciting things going on tonight. Welcome to everyone. We have our Girl Scouts here tonight, and we have a few promotions that we're excited about in the village. And we're going to be appointing our new chief for the day. And our chief is going to have to take an oath of office. So we're going to have, and I have to take a motion to appoint the chief. So, Justin, or I'm sorry, Henry, why don't you come up? And stand up there. Where's Chief Guevara back there? He's looking a little anxious. Tell him he'll be all right.
It's a larger crowd than I'm used to.
Yes. So I'd like to consider a motion to appoint Henry Yeager as police chief for a day, effective on April 29th, 2019. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nell. Second. Trustee Mazzillo. All in favor? That's unanimous. Pretty good. Your mom is here, Michelle and Todd, and your brother Julian. And what I'll do is, do you have anything you'd like to say about being chief?
Well, I would love to see all of the vehicles. And I would also like to meet every police that works.
You know, we had a few police promotions, police officers being promoted tonight. They're not gonna be chief, but they're getting close. We'll go over here and we'll take some pictures.
You have to swear him in.
You have to swear him in.
You have to
Bob.
swear him in.
You gotta swear him in.
Oh! I got the most
Henry, you
important
gotta tell
part.
him what to do.
Do you solemnly swear?
Oh.
You have to raise your hand.
There you
Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New York, and to carry out the duties of police chief of the village of Dobbs Ferry Police Department to the best of your ability? You do. Fantastic. Let's hear it. Take a picture with,
You got a badge?
yes.
Maybe the chief could put it on.
Get you without stick. Responsibility. Award.
deputies?
Thank you. Actually, that's part of the school foundation. In order to raise funds for the foundation, they have a cheaper day. Maybe we'll do that for the day we'll see what raise the money. Next time. Is that all right with you, Chief?
I'd like to be mayor for the day.
You have to be very careful with who we. So, we have a couple promotions tonight. This is a great night for myself and for the board. It's always a great occasion, especially with Don Ferry's finest. And we'll have two promotions tonight from police officer to sergeant. So I'm going to take the motion for police officer Travis Colvin first, and then we'll go on to Jamie Castiello next. So I'd like to consider a motion to appoint police officer Travis Colvin as police sergeant effective March 27, 2019, for a salary of $129,336. I have to do that, Travis. So can I have a motion? Deputy Cassell, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? 6-0. So I will have you come up. Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and to carry out the duties of police sergeant of the Dobbs Ferry Police Department to the best of your ability? I do. Travis has done a great job since he's been here with the department. You're originally from Rockland County, lifelong resident of Rockland. You went to Cavalier High School. You graduated from Quinnipiac College, economics. Sorry, that's Jamie's. Albany, with economics, yes. We're not really gonna help you there. Some financial thing. You started out in the New York City Police Department, the 44th precinct. And we were lucky enough to have Travis come here to Dobbs Ferry. He's been on many important assignments, patrol, traffic unit, traffic committee liaison to the police department. We have just completed an accreditation process for the police department. The chief and he had a team of officers that he put together to get that, to extend our accreditation in the state of New York. We're only one of two municipal governments in Westchester County that have achieved that, one is Dobbs Ferry, and Greenberg is the second.
Yeah, there's
There's a few others.
there were a few, but
I'm trying to make it sound good.
yes.
Anyway, so this is great, Travis. You want to say a word, please? Sure.
I just want to thank everybody here. Without everybody here, this wouldn't be possible. I look forward
They seem to do pretty well out there. But anyway, people are starting to slow down in this village. Some of the things that Travis has done, so we appreciate that. We'll take a few shots with the board of trustees. Each of you in one of their families. Excellent. Okay, so we'll consider a motion now to appoint Police Officer Jamie Castiello as Police Sergeant effective March 27, 2019, for a salary of $129,336. Sorry, Jamie. Why don't you up? And we'll take a motion to appoint Police Officer Jamie Castiello as Police Sergeant. Motion, Trustee Mazzillo, second. Trustee Gillen, all in favor? Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New York, and to carry out the duties of Police Sergeant of the Dobbs Ferry Police Department to the best of your ability?
I do.
I'm going to say a few words about Jamie and then we'll get into it, John.
Yeah.
Jamie grew up in Dobbs Ferry, went to Artsville High School.
Yes.
Quinnipiac University.
Yep.
Got that right. And you were married.
I was.
You got it all covered now, chief in the police department.
You're doing very well, yes, absolutely.
And you've been on the force for a few years now,
My sixth year, yes.
so, and you've done a great job. Most recently part of the traffic unit,
Correct.
and before that, part of the patrol.
Yes.
So, both of these new sergeants are looked at, you can see the officers back here. They have a lot of respect for both of you and your leadership abilities. So, congratulations. Chief. And we'll bring this on. You want to bring up your
Mother Charlene.
mom?
Oh, that's.
Do you want to bring your family up?
Don't be shy.
Want the whole group? Wow, you are
Can I have him? Oh my God, he's so adorable. I can keep him for the rest of the night. You guys gonna celebrate? I can keep him. Can I have him?
I did 2 nights. Back. The 2 nights.
I think tonight I would.
Thanks, everybody, for coming out. I just wanted to thank the mayor, board of trustees for these promotions. Gets our supervision back where we need to be. Not a strong public speaker, but I'm trying to get better. The officers that kind of know me have been trying to instill a sense of ownership and pride and strength in that. And, trying to get everyone kind of on board. And so one of the things that, as far as my new sergeants, you know, people think that you've been granted the rank of sergeant, that automatically you're a leader. And what I learned in my career is that it takes hard work. And I know that Travis and Jamie, you're more than capable of taking that on. While the village board has granted you the authority of sergeants, I don't want that to stop. I want you to continue to push yourself because I'm looking for leaders. I'm looking for great leaders. And I know we've had our chats and we will continue having our chats as well as my chats with my officers. What you need to do now is just a quick training. You need to earn their trust. You've done that as police officers. You're now stepping into a management role. You're gonna have to do that again. And I know you're gonna do a great job. First step, earn your officers' trust. And you're off and running. So that's just kind of my 2 cents. They make our job easier. Don't ever forget that. Without the police officers on patrol, our detectives, we can do nothing. And always keep that in the back of our head and do anything we set our minds to. So I'm proud to have you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all for coming tonight. And Travis and Jamie, congratulations again. We're very lucky to have you and all of our finest here in Duxbury securing the village. Thank you very much. We have the Girl Scouts next. Is anybody, one of you is gonna come up and present, right?
What about little Bobby Skipping?
You let it look.
Skip. Yeah, I agree.
What's next?
Just keep on. Well, we have to retract. We have to go back to this. We're gonna retract on that one. I'm not passing.
I'm here to appoint Steve Centrillo as a member ad hoc budget committee for a term as 1 year, as recommended by the nominating committee. Charlene, did you want to come up for you? We'll do it with the Girl Scout team.
That makes them more special.
Bob, do we need to take a motion for Charlene first?
Could they,
I'd like to consider a motion to approve an employment agreement with our village administrator, Charlene Bell, for a term of 1 year. Deputy Mayor Cassell, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New York, and to carry out the duties of village administrator for the village of Dobbs Ferry to the best of your ability?
It's a pleasure working with the village of Dobbs Ferry and for the mayor and the board of trustees. But most importantly, it's the various departments that we have, the various people I work with. They make life worthwhile, and they do make the village's quality of life worthwhile. So I'd like to thank them for everything they do. I'd like to thank the board and mayor for everything they do. They are dedicated, and they get paid a lot less than I do.
We have to talk about that. Discuss that a little further.
And you guys, it's not a bad career.
Good job. That's
Thank you.
great advice.
People don't realize how much goes into running a village. It's not a piece of cake, so to speak. There's a lot involved. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of people, and there's always a lot of calls and suggestions and committees and projects. And, we're in the middle of rebuilding the infrastructure of the village. And it takes real command to lead that to be done. We have a new community center that's being built that we hope to have finished by September. And we have a new pool facility being built that we hope to have open by July 1st. So that's good. So we're hoping to have that open for the camping season. The village hall needed reinforcement as far as supporting the new fire equipment that we ordered. So there's a lot to be done. So we thank Charlene for the work she's done for the village and will continue to do. I don't know if any other trustee would have a comment, want to make a comment? No.
We just agree.
Oh, we've made comments to her already.
I don't have much to say. You said it all. Very, very happy to have you.
We get along.
I'm Lily, and I'm in Girl Scout Troop 1688 in Dobbs Ferry. Thank you for taking time to recognize the Girl Scouts in Dobbs Ferry. The Bronze Award is the highest award for 4th and 5th grade Girl Scouts. It is a year-long process allowing girls to learn team building and solve important community needs as they perceive them. Girls practice listening and action guided by their unique vision. We learned that a difference of opinion not always is an obstacle, but sometimes part of a better solution. Mostly, we found it can be a lot of fun to leave a place better than you found it.
Our trip wanted to help children with special needs in the Dobbs Ferry community for our Bronze Award. We met with a parent with a child of special needs, and she expressed her interest in helping her son develop more social skills and friendships. After a play session did not go as planned, we met with Principal Julia Rick for suggestions costume with a pencil, reminding them to smile and say hello. Each classroom we went to was filled with smiles. We were handing out some of the pencils from our project. Remember, smile and say hello.
Scouts is great for young
Just another
ladies in the community. You do a lot for the community. So take a picture up here.
No, they have more presentations.
We aim to help local bird species. To help the birds, we went to experts to find out more about birds and the research on the field. Then we made bluebird boxes with an expert to help the bluebird population because it is declining rapidly because of house fires. After we made bluebird boxes, we came up with the idea of making a pamphlet to raise awareness about how to help bluebirds and other local birds. We put 10 ways to help your local birds, including tips like key places where birds may shelter, safe, and clutter-free. We have some copies of our pamphlet if anyone is interested. We chose to help birds because we wanted to do something to help the environment, and birds play an important role in the environment. Helping birds will make your heart soar.
Can we get one of those, please? Thank you.
You have any for us?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, and a pen, all right.
We're going to give out certificates of appreciation for all you do on the Scouts. Do some great things for the community, and it's very important. Thank you for your help. You have a certificate of appreciation. The Girl Scouts are
Find out
going
what's
to
picture, then I'll make them feel.
with grateful recognition on behalf of the village of Dobbs Ferry for earning the Girl Scouts of America bronze. And then we have a certificate of appreciation to Girl Scout Troop 1688 with grateful recognition on behalf of the village of Dobbs Ferry for earning the Girl Scouts of America Bronze Award. And also a certificate of appreciation for Girl Scout Troop 2305 with grateful recognition on behalf of the village of Dobbs Ferry for earning the Girl Scouts of America Bronze Award. Thank you very much. Why don't we get a picture?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you to the Scout leaders too for taking the time to work with young ladies on doing some of these great things today.
Smaller ones in front, taller ones in the back.
That's it.
Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you, girls. make a killer selling those cookies in here tonight. Not for a while. No? Yeah. Unfortunately, trust me, I know. I know.
Okay. We'll let these folks wait, and now we have a presentation. So I come to the library, Lady Jones and Lady.
Okay, and somebody will clean the house.
Watch this.
It's so nice seeing the Girl Scouts. I was a Girl Scout. I don't know if any of the other trustees were Girl Scouts, but my daughter was a Girl Scout. You weren't a Girl Scout, Larry?
No.
It's a wonderful memory. Well, my son was a Boy Scout, so I have some memories of it.
I got a Girl Scout.
Appreciate the time to be able to come before the board. I will try and be brief, but we've had a lot of exciting things happening in the last nine months. And I thought that this would be the perfect time to talk to you about what's going on in the library because April 16th, it says at the end, I forgot the date already, but National Library Week is coming up and we have a lot of ideas and things happening at our own local library. So I want to give you a brief overview of the Friends of Library, what's happened in the last 9 months. I'd like to give a big thank you to everybody that has been so supportive of us. We have a most wonderful library board and our library director is awesome. She is so amazing and her staff are very creative and it's just an exciting time at our library. So I'd like to thank you for the people that have joined and served on the board. A lot of interesting things and people are making great things happen at our library. For those that don't know what the Friends of the Library do, we inform and engage the community in our library resources, services, and needs. We sponsor and engage volunteer services for the library. We support staff enrichment. We sponsor cultural programs and exhibits. We purchase items for the library above and beyond the library's normal operating budget. We encourage sustaining gifts to the library. Many people do not know that our library is supported by our village budget, but there are always additional needs, and for that purpose, the Friends come forward and supplement the budget line items. During this past 9 months, we've met with members of our community. We've attended jazz concerts, the Rivertowns Market, Fairy Festa, the American Legion Flea Market. We got to meet more of our new neighbors and get people engaged with the Friends of the Library. And in order to increase membership, we developed a new website. We've made that website interactive with PayPal. We've increased our presence in social media. We've networked among our friends. Pretty soon I'll be handing out flyers at the train station soliciting gifts. Also, we've developed 2 newsletters, one that went out in early June, and now recently a first prototype of an e-newsletter that we'd like to develop. The annual appeal went out last December, and we're getting ready to start a membership drive. See, there's our little PayPal guy right there. One thing that we realized was that who writes a check anymore? If somebody asks me for money, it's like, can I pay with credit card, debit card, okay, PayPal. So it was very imperative for us to make that connection with PayPal. And what we saw was a huge, tremendous exposure that almost half of our money that we raised came through PayPal. And that by having access to instantly make a donation available to people, it made a significant impact increasing our membership. Our membership has increased to over 236 people. That's a 30% increase of where we were a year ago. With 4,000 families in Dobbsbury, we still have a lot of opportunity to expand our membership, and we enjoy the challenge. These numbers are cute, aren't they? I tell you, it's amazing. Here's some more information to help you. When we first started, the Friends of Dobbsbury already had a page on Facebook. pressure of people wanting to come back and look and see what's going on. We started with about 200 people. We're now at 411 following our website. They give us all kinds of cute little analytics here about like how many times people were engaged with what we posted, what was, the page responses, a lot of statistic analytics, that's the word, well, not pronounced that way, but that is the word. And what was very interesting, if you look on the very bottom here, there's a little cursor. This is like a sample of what's on our Facebook page right now. We're having a concert that Lee Reiser is going to do a benefit for the library in 2 weeks on Saturday. And it shows already 50 people are going or are interested in attending. Many people have already paid online to secure seats. Our library only holds 70 people. The last time we had a comedy show, it completely sold out. People like what's going on in our library. And then there's other little notes and stuff. I can send this to you if you want to look at it in more details. It also tells us when our fans are online. It's interesting. It looks like most people in Dobbsbury are going to sleep about 9:30. They're going offline. Either that or they finish their homework and they're done. But it also gives us a lot of statistics that way. It also tells us in this corner here, it talks about some of the programs that we have, how many people are looking at this, how many people are interested in it, what programs are generating the most attention. So this is really helpful for Elizabeth and her programming staff to create cool programs for our library. We had a call for volunteers. Last September we had our first meet and greet. We're planning on trying to do another one soon. We've asked for volunteers on Facebook, on Instagram. We've had a wonderful response from high school students that volunteered for the Valentine's Sale. Children's Village is also a partner in the activities we do at the library. During the Valentine's Sale, they baked some delicious cookies for us and provided plants for our sale. We continue to network and talk to people about what resources can you bring to help our library. And we also ask for volunteers on our newsletter. What we've learned a lot is that our community-based programs are being very well attended. Live performances, such as I mentioned before, the comedy show, this concert coming up next Saturday, are generating a lot of foot traffic through our library. The holiday fair we had last December was the best that we've had in years. The Valentine's sale that we had in February was the best that we've had in years. The fact that we had a wonderful chairperson this year who's also a library board person, June Y. June did a wonderful initiative. She had little Valentine's cards made for children to write to the police officers in Dobbsbury. We had somebody come in that wanted to send hand-decorated cookies to each one of the policemen on our force. People want to be engaged with our library. People want to be engaged in our community, and we're finding ways to make that happen. Also, we have some exciting children's programs, cultural programs. Santa Claus was very well loved this year. And the wonderful thing is there's picture me, not that that's the wonderful thing, but it's like I see the people that I've known in this community for 30 years, and that is an amazing thing to me. One of the things that happened this year, in addition to our annual mailings that we do, soliciting at the end of the year for gifts, and also asking people to become a member, we had Allie Moss honor her two daughters. On their birthdays, she decided and talked to her daughters and said, we don't need any more toys. We would like to raise money for the library. So the girls have been able to generate enough money to bring in a special presentation that's going to be a children's program sponsored by the two girls. And I think that is just such a wonderful and show tunes. And it was a great performance, and it's like, I was so happy to share that with my community, that it was worth me paying that performer to come in and do something. I was happy to be able to do that for where I live. When Betty Gilmore Lynch had her birthday this year, she too said, I don't want any gifts, please make gifts to the library in my honor. And we have enough gifts from her various friends that it will pay for a program for our library. And then there's my picture Jim, and my husband Jim has a picture of Jim. Jim, for his birthday, decided, I think I shared this with you guys last time, we went to the comedy show. My friends all chipped in $10 each so that we could save a seat, so we had a guaranteed seat when we went to the comedy show. We raised over $200 for the library. We want to inspire philanthropy, and that's what I like to do. By having these programs, we want to talk to you about what the results are. The results of all of the work that the Friends have done in the last 9 months have increased our membership, which have increased funds. It has increased local sponsors, who again have increased the funds that we have to be able to use. Increased funds equal increased programs. Increased programs increase the value to the community. Increased programs also create an active downtown, and an increased program creates a vibrant village. What I'd like to talk to you about briefly right now is this concert that we're having in 2 weeks on Saturday. As I mentioned, you can either buy your ticket online or on Facebook. There's a connection, but it's on our homepage, direct bullet. It's only $20, but this money will be used to replace the library equipment in our community room. Anybody that was at the Democratic debate last year realized that our microphone and our PA system was very inadequate. So we have a wonderful opportunity, thanks to one of our friends who actually used to work at the library several years ago. Jane Andrus included us in her estate plan, and of the money that she left to us, we're going to use $3,000 of that as a match to get the $6,000 that we need in order to replace the equipment in the multipurpose room. So with Jane's $3,000, we only have to raise another $3,000, and with this concert, it's a great start. So we're hoping that we might be able to develop a series of other concerts where people will come in. We can pay a small amount. What's $20? I mean, people that go to the school's foundation, what's that check, 150? What, I don't know what it is anymore. My kids are grown and I don't go to that. So, but $20 is affordable, and we want to keep the stuff at our library affordable for other people that want to be able to do it. And if anybody would like to see this concert and does not have the $20, please send me an email, speak to Elizabeth. I will treat you as my guest, okay? So that's about our capital campaign. We want to talk about where we're going in the next, who knows, 6 months maybe? We want to get our e-newsletters to look like Bob's newsletters, to look like Elizabeth's newsletters, to be able to be read easily on an iPhone or a Samsung phone or whatever kind of mobile device you like to use. We want to be able to make it more user-friendly. We want to develop an open mic night at our library and have it be a coffee night, like a coffee club. Hopefully, I would love to see it as an adult effort, and maybe even have a couple of programs for young teens. I think that this would create a lot of synergy in the downtown. I know I love to go have dinner before I go to a library event, and this to me is a great thing to do. We have a wonderful event coming up. It's called FairyCon. It's like Comic-Con. If you know what that is, it's about costume characters. It's going to be at the library. It's going to be a really big deal. I can't tell you enough about it, but it's pretty awesome. The other thing we'd like to do in the future is we'd like to upgrade some of the children's collection of books. I've heard from a couple of different parents that there's special authors that they like. So we want to hear more about what they want, the young parents. We'd also like to be able to get a grant to be able to able to buy some laptop computers so that we'd be able to have tech workshops at the library. Many people do not know, believe it or not, how to use Word, PowerPoint, Excel. We'd like to be able to help them learn this in a way that might be able to help them secure a job in the future. And if it doesn't help them secure a job in the future, it might lead to somebody doing some of my work for the friends. We'd also like to expand on the senior program that we have, and we'll be having an annual meeting coming up soon. That will be on June 6th. We're very lucky to be able to, Teresa is going to spearhead this, Teresa Walsh. We've been able to secure Mary Calvi to come into Dobbsbury to talk about her new book, Dear George, Dear Mary. This should be a great program, and we're really excited that Mary's joining us. So put that on your calendar. And also, as I mentioned earlier, we're having the Celebrating National Library Week with a lot of different events coming on. We have a lecture about Colonel Brown. This is co-sponsored by the Dobbsbury Historical Society, the Westchester Historical Society, the Friends of the Library, and Castle Bassett. But this is a really great thing for those who do not know who Colonel Brown is. Colonel Brown was a philanthropist in Dobbsbury. He donated the first library that we had up on the corner of 155 Main?
Main and Cedar.
On the corner.
Main and Cedar.
Main and Cedar.
Main and Cedar, yeah. The way the skateboard is. He also owned the property where Springhurst School is, and it'll be a very interesting message, and I'm sure you'll enjoy that lecture. Before we go, we'd like to also thank all of the sponsors we've had so far in the community. It has been wonderful that we ask people for stuff. They're very generous, and we're extremely thankful for that, and we want to recognize that. We're also very appreciative for the support. I need a glass of water. We're very thankful for the Rivertowns Enterprise. It always covers what we're doing, talks about the programs that we have, and helps, generate interest in what we do here. And that is the end. It may be a little over 7 minutes. I wish that police officer was still here so he could arrest me. I could have been the first person, and that would have been a great picture.
Well, thank you, Vicki. You have a lot of good things that are happening there. It's Elizabeth Hobson, our director of the library, and the staff there. I was down for the American Creed program on Saturday. Wonderful program.
Really good conversation afterwards.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah, video was terrific. And we're going to be doing more on that as we go forward. And the concert that's coming up, they were over at...
This guy used to play, this guy actually has played at some of the Dobbsbury Library stuff before. Remember when I had my kayak presentation? He's actually an ACE, American Canoe Association certified kayaking guy, leader. That's why I know him. He had a great show in Fairmont the other day and at the Turning Point. I was like, wow, this is really nice, and it's music I like and I enjoy, and I think people in Dobbsbury might like an opportunity to hear this, so we're going out to dinner again and to the library.
Great. Well, if he's coming from the Turning Point, he must be good, so I'm going to try to show up with it.
Videos online, Bob, so I can
Great.
direct you to that.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
Well, keep up the great work. Thank you all very much for what you do.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, all my friends.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, ladies.
Okay. We now have courtesy of the floor. Would anybody like to address the board? Niall?
My name's Niall Kane. I'm a resident of Dobbsbury and an architect. I sent a letter a couple days ago to Liz, who wasn't in, an automatic reply that she wasn't in, and then I sent it to Charlene, and I think you got it.
We did.
We did.
Liz is always working.
I'm sure she's working. The letter I submitted is regarding, and I'm not going to read the whole letter clearly, and I have some bullet points here that I want to address. And if you forgive me, I'm going to read it just because it's a little 187-6 of the village code states that drawings submitted to the building department for projects in the city are to be prepared by a licensed architect or engineer when so directed by the building inspector. Clearly, when it says, references the building inspector's discretion, we're talking about projects of a nature, asphalt shingles on the roof, windows, doors, things that are, an architect is not required for. It does not suggest, although it doesn't state this, my opinion is it doesn't suggest that the building inspector can decide that in one case, drawings can not be prepared by an architect, and in another case they can. It would have to be for any project where an architect is required, or an engineer, that they be prepared by that architect or engineer. Now, there are other, as far as the Office of Professions goes, New York State Office of Professions, if it's the case that the town, the village, and the village attorney would have to opine on this, that somehow the language of the building code where it says prepared by an architect is not enforceable, or that something about it is not, as stated, that prepared by a licensed architect, then you sort of fall into the New York State Office of the Professions. And if it's, I'm going to read this again when we're done. If it's determined that the code is written as not to be enforced, New York State Office of the Professions has regulations governing when it is appropriate for a licensed architect or engineer to sign and seal documents prepared by others. And there are very limited circumstances where that is appropriate. Documents prepared by the project owner for his or home use. Documents prepared or procured from an incapacitated or deceased practitioner. And then they cite an example of projects where someone can sign and seal drawings that they have not prepared. The example is a 1,500 square foot house, gross square feet. Just for reference, most houses in Dobbs Ferry about 2,500 square feet, 3,500 square feet. This is a very small house or small project. Clearly, they don't delineate every single project where this is permitted, but it has to fall within that sort of category. There's a couple other examples. House plans purchased by magazines, you can sign and seal. There are also regulations governing when an engineer can sign the work prepared by others, and they're equally restricted. In fact, they're a little more restrictive. You can't sign and seal a 1,600 square foot house, but you can sign and seal components of a prefabricated structure, for example, but not the whole structure, just the components of that structure. This is something that's kind of been a bugaboo for me for quite some time. When I was on the planning board, it goes back 10, 12 years even, I brought up the issue, but I didn't pursue it. Ed Plotkin, who I love, and he's a great man, was a little dismissive, so I just kind of dropped it. But last year, I brought it up again. I sent a letter to Darius that is essentially the letter that you have. Darius said he was going to discuss it with the mayor, with Bob. I'm not sure if that ever happened. I inquired about it several times and never got any kind of response. I've also discussed this with members of the planning board, discussed this with members of the architectural review board. I've discussed this with members of the community. It's come up, not necessarily me bringing it up, but it's come up. And architects within the community, and without exception, every single person feels this is an issue that needs to be addressed, without exception. And I guess it's a little frustrating. I also brought it up to a trustee who's not here, and she said there were some meetings about this, and I inquired again about it, and there was no response. So I'm a little frustrated because as a resident, I've been asked, and granted, maybe I made a mistake in not sort of sending a letter more formally to the board from the get-go, but I had inquired and never had any response. So, it's something that I feel that the village really needs to address, and under legal advisement, I'm sure maybe a committee can be put together, because it needs specific clarity. And the language to me is clear. It says it must be prepared by an architect or engineer. That's clear. But if for some reason legal representation feels that that's not enforceable, then like I said, you go to the New York State Office of the Professional Guidelines, and that needs to be followed. And I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, again, my opinion is the village code needs to be followed, because it's specific, it's in the code.
Now, we have the letter, and you don't,
Okay, I'm just, there's a definition of the term prepared, it's very precise.
Right.
And they're good officer professionals.
I think we're all familiar with the,
So, just want to leave it at, I do think it as some kind of committee to really discuss this issue and provide clarity, because again, it's an issue that comes up again and again. And specific clarity, if I'm all wrong about this, fine, but that is something that I would like to propose that you all discuss and think about putting together a committee to make it, once and for all, so, because it is an issue throughout there, since I've been on the planning board, 12 years ago, this comes up again and again and again. So,
Okay.
I've said my piece.
thanks now. Lee?
Constantine, I just want to make some remarks about the Girl Scouts tonight. I was happy to see they talked about the birds, and I read their pamphlet, and I didn't know that's what they were going to talk about. And I read the part where they said that for people to shut their blinds, keep lights off that you're not using, because birds use the night sky, and they use the stars to guide them, and they said when you have excessive lights on, that impedes their steering. So it brings to mind the Rivertown Square project, where those lights are on 24/7, I'll say. Extremely bright, not any real use for it, especially even now that the place is vacant. So that is an impediment to the birds, and not to mention the neighbors that have the light trespass. I know I sent a letter to all of the board about give or take a month ago. We didn't hear a response from it. We also, the violations still exist. And the second part of it, that since we're on the bird topic, is the bird chaser that they're using there, and it's on 24/7 as well. It's very loud, it's audible, it's prima facie that somebody, even the public can hear it from 25 feet away. Prima facie means you don't need any devices, no decibel levels, that it's considered a nuisance and it's outside of peace and good order ordinance. So I'd like to know what's going to be done about, especially those two items. And I also want to make another comment about the bird issue, is that I don't see where another property owner has a right to chase birds from somebody else's property, because that, I sent you the data on it, the whole specifications on that bird chaser, and it says it chases them away up to an acre away. So given the proximity of the residents, needless to say that they're chasing it away from that yard as well.
Okay.
And I think it should not be allowed. Likewise, the noise is just horrible. And you can hear it from the public street, not just the resident. So I'd like to know if there's a plan in place of how that's going to be addressed, those certain items. There were other items in the letter, but I won't go into that now. I just said, well, since I read this tonight, I think it was very appropriate, and I think if anything, that project down there is a burden to the birds.
Thanks, Lee. We'll take a look at that. I'm not,
What kind of timeline will we get, because this has been going on for quite some time.
I'm really not that familiar with the noise that is in the parking lot there. I'm assuming where Brooklyn Market is?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yes, I sent the letter, so I would think that if any of you have or haven't been down there, that you definitely should go down there and listen to it. You can go 24 hours a day, because it's not like it's turned off at some
Right. Okay.
It's constantly on. So
Yeah, I've
we'd
definitely
really
heard
like to
it.
see a resolution for it.
Charlene had,
Have we done anything with that? Because I know she did send a letter to us. Have we done anything?
Yeah.
Yes, I know,
I was gonna go to that.
Ed has gone down there a couple of times. It's intermittent. It's not constant, from my understanding.
It's every 20 seconds, it cycles, it's within a minute, it cycles every 20 seconds. It is constant, that's considered constant. I don't think we need to pull the word constant apart.
It is in
because
it.
That's irrelevant.
Ed will address the issue.
Also, the light violation, I
And
know
the
that that's a
light,
problem.
yeah, I believe that, well,
We
Lee
have
of course
addressed that
knows.
for several years now, and I just can't imagine that it takes this long to correct a violation that is blatant and prima facie.
I think that
is a complex of issues here because considering that this is a business, it's an establishment that is a business, and then, you know, there is a private home right in the middle of all. I think that that's one of the biggest challenges that we have here. Because you unfortunately we need to, of course, identify what is gonna go there and the changes that will be required to make sure that everything is to code. But at the end of all, it's like, it is a business that is operating pretty much on a non-regular basics of a home. which I
Mara's
think that
very
that's-
correct in saying that because zoning, of course, and noise and everything else is based on a commercial zone.
And you know my thoughts on that, you know, on the residential area, because you know that I live in the downtown, so I'm very sensitive to that. But that is what my concern is, that the zoning is contradicting. Okay, well, since you brought that up, I'd like to address the zoning aspect of it. If you read, I don't recall, it's section N, hold on one second, let me finish. And it talks about that even the noise coming from a residential, coming from an industrial, coming from commercial, it does not matter. It can come from a church. It's irrelevant to where it is. Zoning is not an issue there.
Mayor,
One second, Lee. Lee, 1 second.
Mayor, the River Towns has not been completed. There are a lot of punch list items, and one of the punch list items, of course, are the poles, which really cause a problem. But we'll address all those issues as to what the zoning says and what the zoning doesn't say. Obviously, this is a work in progress because it has not been completed, especially with the poles that we're supposed to bury the wires. And they were absolutely told that they have to do it. And they are trying to do that, so.
I mean, as far as,
Everything's not closed out yet.
right.
But the birds are in the garage, or they are on the poles?
It's underneath, and they have auxiliary speakers that project the sound everywhere, no matter where you go. You go to their far corner, underneath you hear it. You go out to the street, you hear it. It covers an acre worth of land.
At the very least, we should look into,
Lee,
since Brooklyn Market's not even
drive
there, we should be trying to
Yeah, let
turn
me
that
take a
off.
drive down there and
Well,
understand.
Ed is familiar with it, right?
We'll have Ed look at it.
Yeah. Okay. Lee, we're going to have our building superintendent take a look again at it.
And also, I mean, the zoning is completely irrelevant, so if any of you have that in your mind that, oh, zoning, they're next to a commercial, it's completely irrelevant. So I think you need to take a look at that code, and it clearly, explicitly explains, and I think I sent you guys the code on that part. I analyzed the whole thing, I sent you the documents. I think it's a matter of just reading it and really understanding it, and don't just think, oh, commercial, it's irrelevant. Commercial can't do it either around those certain noise hours.
Okay. Thanks, Lee.
Thanks, Lee.
Neil? Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna take a drive down there.
Good evening, Neil Whitehouse, 26 Hampshire Terrace. Just like to express some appreciations first, if I may. First of all, to the Girl Scouts. I used to call myself an overgrown Boy Scout. I'm an aging or former Boy Scout, but it's not just because of the Samoas. They do great work. I'd like to say how much I appreciate all of you equally, although maybe I appreciate Elizabeth a little bit more. But
Yeah, we know.
I'm very pleased to see McCarthy Finger having been selected as our village attorneys, and welcome, Laura Lee. I had the pleasure of meeting Lester Steinman and talking with him at the WOMA, the Westchester Municipal Officers Association Executive Committee, and he expressed to me the value system and commitment that your firm has to doing things right. And I was just very, very encouraged. And in that context, following on from Niall's comments, those of you who have been on the board for a while and been around, years ago I used to speak quite often. And often what I would talk about was process, was doing things properly. I'm a former county and federal professional, and doing things right in government is not a request, it's a requirement. And I think whether it's the issue of New York State Education Law, Section 702, or whether it's the public law Article 7 relating to open meetings, or whether it's the Village Code 300-52E, which we had big issues with in the past, where there were efforts to use waivers that came from the then mayor to avoid the proper process, the planning approvals process. So what I would ask is that the idea of taking a serious look at one aspect, which is that, you know, the issue of professionals, registered professionals being the right people to do certain things as per New York State law, I think that that would be a really good idea to consider having some kind of task force. We now have our new village attorney to look at all of these sorts of procedural issues that, because sometimes all of us fall into poor patterns of behavior, and we accept what they are, we don't think about them. And I think a review of all of these sorts of issues is really called for, and I would ask you to give that consideration. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Neil. You'll be next.
I'll be just very brief. I was surprised when you talked about this bird noise thing. My name is Vicki Jones. I live in Grandview Avenue. I was a trustee for 2 years. I was on the Conservation Advisory Committee for probably 5 or 6 years. I can't remember. But and when I was on the Board of Trustees, I served on the ARHAB board as liaison. This situation, this chirping bird situation, that should have been discussed during the environmental review process of that. We have a noise ordinance. That particular piece of property is next to the Somme River Flyway. As a member of the Audubon Society, I would never want to see something like that making noise, interrupting flight patterns of birds. It's next to Bramley Park, which in one point in time might be something, a park again. And we cannot disturb birds because somebody doesn't want the bird poop there. They should realize when they built it that that's there, and that that's not acceptable in our community to have anything that goes, I'm going to go listen to this noise now tomorrow. But check the code, it's just not appropriate. Not appropriate, please.
Thank you.
For the birds, we got the bird closure.
Thanks, Vicki.
Hi, my name is Robin Larkins. I'm the co-chairperson of Spring Community Partners.
How are you, Robin?
Just for a 60-second commercial. We had the privilege of meeting with Mayor Bob at our last board meeting, and he invited us to present to the board, hopefully in April. Spring is an organization that's in its 11th year of existence, that exists to promote children's full and active participation in their community and in school. And we do that through a series of over 14 programs that assist children in need in Dobbs Ferry. In the past 5 years, Spring has assisted in sending over 275 of our children to summer camp in the village. We have done this at a cost of $100,000 that has been paid to the village during that time. Over the past 2 years, our costs have increased by 41% last year, and this year we anticipate an increase of 100% because of the increased cost of summer camp. We spoke with Mayor Bob about coming to the board and creating better awareness within the community of Spring Community Partners to help assist us so that we don't have to turn away children who had previously had the experience of summer camp, the socialization that goes along with that, the ability to participate as other children do. And we're looking forward to telling you more about our organization, what more we do for the community, but wanted to tease our presentation because we have a few short months before summer camp season and would like to try to generate more awareness and support for the children that we serve. So, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Robin. I know that what you do, really helps a lot of the less fortunate children in the community. And you've worked closely with our recreation department here in Dobbs Ferry to, help support a lot of the programs that you help these children attend. So thank you very much for all you do. And we'll,
Comment, if I may. I think Spring is one of the most important charities in our community and most important programs. It's very easy for all of us to forget that there are members of our community who don't have the access, who don't take for granted many of the things that we all enjoy about being in Dobbs Ferry, including a lot of supplemental school programs and other things. So, like the Friends of the Library, it's a great example of volunteers coming together and helping to make our community a better place.
Sure, the vision of Spring existed long before we created an organization. And it's really what is great about this community, that those who are aware of what the needs are step up to help those that are less fortunate. So this year we're serving over 190 children in our community through our various programs. And so you know, again, the fact that these children can participate just like everyone else can is really tantamount. So your awareness and support of what we do makes it easier for us to do what we do. So
Great. Thanks, Robin. Keep up the great work.
Robin, I may add, and I of course thank you guys for everything that you do and continue to do for the communities. And I just remember being a member of several different committees, local committees, where some of us, the mothers, have issues with babysitting or with all the different type of support where we need volunteers, and I will encourage the parents of these children, if they can get more involved in the community and in more of these type of activities that we do, that the cause and the result is always to the benefit of their own children. I really would like them to be more involved. I'd be more than happy to, if they don't speak the language, if I could assist on, communicating this to them. But I remember having a necessity of having volunteers and people to help us out, help them. So it would be great if they can get more involved and more engaged in the community. If they, are the stay-home moms, like me with the beautification committee. Sometimes I am in need of people just coming and probably help us plant something. So it would be great if they can get more engaged. And we'd be more than happy to welcome them with open arms because we need the help. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Anyone else for courtesy of the floor? No? Thank you again, Vicki.
Thank you. I'm going to my stained glass class. It's been fun.
Great. Okay. The board will preliminarily review the latest revisions to the plans for 100 Main Street project. Patty, I know this. You did a presentation before the planning board. That's correct. That's up on our network. I'm not sure you have to go through the whole presentation. Do you want to just do the major changes?
Well, first, Pat Steinschneider, Gotham Design and Community Development. Here representing Mr. Sutton, who's the owner of the property. Everything that we put into that presentation was new. So that wasn't a comparison. So I don't know if there's something in there
Okay.
that you don't think needs to be presented, or if you feel that what we submitted to the board was adequate before, then we wouldn't need to go through it, but that's really up to you.
Let's take a look and we'll.
I mean, it has been a long meeting so far.
I think at least a quick review of the whole presentation, although some people have seen it, I know it's of interest to a lot of members of the community, and it's important that people have a chance to see what it is.
It's mostly just taking out the stuff about the history of the previous iterations.
We don't have any of that in it, though. So this is a pretty streamlined thing. Basically what, and we're not before you at this point with a recommendation from the planning board.
No, we're not.
Rob's here, so he can correct me if I mistake. But basically, we're at a point where we have taken a very different direction from what we had proposed earlier. And this really pivots on the idea of the existing garage, retaining that. And the board asked us to consider that in December. And we came back to them in January and showed an idea. And we have since then developed that idea to are two issues that really needs to be considered by this board. And I think with the planning board, again, not putting words in the planning board's, what they said, but the issue here is this board in a favorable position to the two things that would be necessary to proceed with that concept? Before we turn it over to anyone else, before we have engineers and architects working on the project, while we're still in a planning stage of this, what we wanted to do is get a sense of massing, where we could put units and how it would work. So we've presented this project to the planning board, which if I look at this is the site plan, this is the existing building that's in the front, this is the existing building that's in the back. What we've proposed is a addition on the back of the front building, creating a courtyard between the two structures and using the existing structure in the back as a 4-car garage. So what that triggers is adding this addition on the back, this is on the level of the courtyard, this is the second floor of the existing, residential units, the third floor of the building, and this would be adding a 4th floor on the top of the building, which would be set back from the front facade on Main Street as the downtown guidelines recommend. The space that's in the back is exactly the space that's necessary to be able to come in off of Elm Street and pull into the parking spaces. It would be 4 parking spaces on site. So the two issues that this board would need to, I believe, indicate to the planning board whether or not they wanted to see it evolve further. One is the 4th floor, which is only permitted now with the code change if this board approves it. It's not a waiver in the code, but basically it says that a 4th floor is permitted if the board of trustees feels that it's appropriate. Similarly, 4 parking spaces out of a minimum of 6. Parking required, depends on how we allocate the apartments in the building, could be as many as 8. If we do 2 new units with the 2 existing units, the parking required is 6 spaces. So with 4 on the site, we would need 2 additional spaces, which could either be using the parking spaces along the, on the street, or using the pilots. Again, those aren't waivers, those are conditions that are in the code, which others can talk about if that's necessary. This shows the elevations of the building. There are 2 options that we looked at in terms of concept. One is with a flat roof, which meets the requirement that the roof not exceed a specific height. We happen to believe, there's a little trick in our code. The measurement of a flat roof is measured to the actual structure of the flat roof itself, but you're allowed a 3-foot parapet above that, which doesn't count into it. Whereas a pitched roof is measured to the top of the ridge now from Main Street. If I toggle back and forth between these, I think you can see that in some ways the pitched roof looks lower than the flat roof, even though technically per our code it would be taller. So that's something that would be perhaps a recommendation to the planning board if they have preference, but that could be something else that the board would need to consider. If we don't do the pitched roof, there's nothing that needs to be considered, but if we did want to do the pitched roof, we'd have to deal with the fact that that would make it taller than what the code currently permits, although consistent with what was adopted before. These are just real quick. This kind of juxtaposes that flat roof with the pitched roof, showing what the differences are between those. And then we were also asked by the planning board to create a streetscape. We went from Chestnut to Elm to Oak, showing that side of the street. This is the subject property. This is 78 Main Street, which was approved and permitted several years ago. And what we did is we put those next to each other, and effectively these buildings would be the same height. So if you wanted to get a sense of how tall this building would be, it would be very similar to 78 Main, although of course the top floor on this building sets back, whereas 78 Main does not do that. And these are the questions that we identified at the planning board that needed to be dealt with here at the Board of Trustees. I think the feeling was that the first 2 are fairly light, perhaps not really an issue right now. The existing structure encroaches slightly onto the village's property and slightly onto the aqueduct. So to go in and restore that building, continue its use, we've been told would require a license to permit that from both the village and from the state. We have the issue that the existing building is on the property line. And the new code says you have to be 10 foot back from the property line. So whether a waiver would be required in that, we have a change of attorneys, so I haven't heard our new attorney's position on that. There is an argument to be made that that's an existing structure that's being continued in its current use, and it would just be being restored, not really added to or modified. So hopefully 2 would be a non-issue. The third is the curbside parking with pile-up for the 2 additional spaces, and then of course the permission for the 4-story. Now I've got photos to show things, but maybe you don't need to see those.
No, we haven't, well,
Up to you guys.
We're good.
Then if
I'm
you don't
good.
need to see all of these thousands of photos and Photoshop
you
it.
gave us a nice little packet though.
Okay.
I see it all the
Is,
time.
Read
is,
before
I
bedtime.
just want to confirm that the presentation is publicly available. What, from the planning board
From the planning
meeting?
board.
So is
Well, the planning board, we always submit for that, we put it on a jump drive, so that's available, but we can provide it directly to you guys if you want. What you have in that packet is the entire presentation.
I think you.
right,
you
I'm
talked about the
asking
public.
whether the public would be able to see. Liz, is it possible for us to have this presentation
It's-
posted as part of the record from this meeting, so that people can see the
If
presentation?
I get it electronically,
Sure.
I'll incorporate it in the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to do it.
Okay. I just, if the pictures were of interest to somebody, I think it's important that they have a chance
Are
to see
these,
them.
are these pictures in the planning board presentation?
They were the pictures that we had at the planning board.
So they can, people can also see it by going online and looking at the planning board presentation?
Sure, you'd be able to see it online, on Dutch Straight TV, and of course, this evening is being televised as well.
I have a hypothetical. I know you only look, say we're looking at 4 units. Would you at all consider having one of those units being affordable?
With 4 units, it doesn't pencil out. We're already really tight on 4 units. I played with the idea of what would we do if we had the same massing, same square footage, but instead had 6 one-bedroom units instead of 4 two-bedroom units. With 6 units, something like that could potentially be discussed. That would not be my call. That's Mr. Sutton's. He would have to decide whether that was something he could do.
So a question about the proposed parking would have 4 spaces, and it would be in this barn, basically.
Right.
How many spaces are on site now for the 2 apartments that are
There
there?
are no legal parking spaces on site now at all.
But there are cars that park there
There are cars
in
that
the,
park there.
what would be the courtyard?
Right, we went to the zoning board in 2009 to get to work on this project. At that time, we received a variance for parking, which I should have checked how many, I think it's 5 spaces, either 5 or 6 spaces that we're not required to have on site. That, of course, was at a time when the parking requirements were significant. We've reduced the required parking, which I think was a good move, in the downtown. The concept of trying to put any spaces in that courtyard is not really functional.
No, I'm just trying to think about the net impact of adding 2 more apartments, right? But there are already cars who are parking there, right? So, I mean, practically speaking, it does seem like there are cars there. Maybe am I wrong about that?
There are people who, there's often 3 cars parked there.
Yeah, okay.
I think Steve at one point indicated he had seen even more than 3 parked there. So, people, there's a difference between what the code requires for parking and what people can find in space. So, there's been cars parked there even though it's not supposed to be used for parking.
Which could still be the case under the new design as well, I suppose.
The challenge there would be if somebody came in and parked their car, they'd be blocking someone else's car. Right now, if your cars are relatively small, you can kind of jockey it around and pull out onto Elm Street. If your car is larger, a van or anything like that, you're backing out onto Elm Street. And that's something that, what this has been set up to be
And does this proposal change anything with respect to access to Elm Street and the curb cut? We're not losing any parking spaces or anything
No
on Main
change to
Street?
it at all, we're using the existing curb cut. And there are, I think it's either 7 or 8 parking spaces at curb adjacent to the building. So it's, you know, you've got some parking, and you do have the village parking lot across the street.
How many current apartments are in there, Patty?
There are 2 there now,
Only 2 apartments?
2 duplex units,
How many bedrooms?
2 each.
And that would remain the same?
Those 2 units, there would still be 2 units with 2 existing units with 2 bedrooms each. But now there'll be 2 additional units also with 2 bedrooms each, if it's 4 units.
So you're adding.
And the current apartments are like affordable housing as they are, right?
Well, they're not legal
They're pretty
affordable.
expensive.
Right. And then they'll be more expensive when they're renovated.
I don't know that the rent on them would go up. But, you know, they'd
But is
actually-
it, how much is changing in the existing structure?
They'd be a little bit smaller.
But are they being renovated? Like,
There's renovation that needs to be done on the interior of the building. It was done by the previous owner 10 years ago. There was major issues with that. The village had major issues with that owner. Things did get worked out. The building inspector was tough on him and got it right. But there are still things that would be good to do in that building to be able to keep that front building in good shape.
So it's like not huge changes to the existing apartments?
The existing apartments would be renovated. You'd have new kitchens. You'd have bathrooms in the location of existing bathrooms. But my guess is that it would all be renovated.
Right.
How many total apartments will be in the whole entire building?
4,
4 2-bedroom apartments.
correct.
So you preserve the garage,
Preserve the garage.
you provide,
Preserve the barn.
you provide parking on site,
You've got 4
which you don't
parking-
have now
Right,
legally.
Correct.
Okay. And you're increasing the height of the,
The trade-off, which I think the planning board understood pretty, pretty well, was if you want to save the garage and you want to make improvements to the property, you're gonna need to add some space. To add the space, it really only works if you're adding the top floor.
right.
What is the square footage of each of these 2-bedroom apartments? Just because of the number of windows that we can see, I mean, this seems like significant large apartments.
They're about 1,500 square feet each. They're decent size.
And the new apartments would be
They're
about the
not
same?
Big, you know, they're nice, yeah, take it.
I said the new apartments would be approximately the same size as well?
All of the units would be a little bit smaller than the existing 2. Effectively, right now, you've got the 2nd and 3rd floor of the existing building is divided vertically, so that you've got 2 apartments on one side and 2 apartments on the other side. Yeah. So this is one apartment, and this is the other apartment. We're only adding the 1 story. So, and the 1 story is smaller than the footprint of the building. So what we're basically doing is, by the time we're done, the 4 units will each be slightly smaller than each of
The original.
2 units. But they're still decent size, they're nice and comfortable.
Are they doing anything to the retail at the bottom?
At this point, no. They're trying to find somebody to come in, hoping maybe the painter could get involved. Bring more business to the downtown. The Terry Optics has left, so that space
That's not
is
Terry,
available.
that was somebody else.
It's
right?
Raymond's, right? Raymond's?
Raymond's.
It wasn't
Yeah.
Terry.
Yeah, sure.
Let's not spread that rumor, she's the same.
But, yeah, Raymond Optics has decided that it's not working for them, so they're not there.
Okay,
Good.
so we take this and consider it and then talk about
Yep.
it at the next meeting? Okay.
Great. Thanks, Patty.
Yeah, and I would encourage anybody, the people in the village who are interested to take a look at the materials. I think it's important for you to have made this presentation in a broader forum here, and that the materials are available for residents who
Sure.
want
And
to
if
see it.
anybody wants, you know, if it's inconvenient to go down and try to get copies from the village and stuff like that, I've never, anybody calls me up, we'll give them whatever.
Well, I think if Liz can post it online, people can see the PowerPoint presentation, which has this material.
And feel free to
Can I just ask you a question? I mean, for us to do a fourth floor, we have to have some good reasons to help the downtown. Can you tell us why you think adding a fourth floor would be beneficial to the downtown?
There are a couple of things. First, you're getting the opportunity to fix that building up better, including the back building, which people have argued should be preserved. There's no economic driver to make that happen unless it comes from some kind of an improvement to the property. There's also a theory, I'll put it, that we have many buildings in the downtown that need to be revitalized and brought up, increasing their value for the tax base. In 2002, I think it was, 50 buildings were identified, and the understanding was if those 50 buildings were renovated, restored, replaced, or, you know, fixed up, it would increase the tax base in the downtown, doubling it, which would reduce the taxes on single-family homes in the village by 1/3. So it's fairly substantial in terms of the impacts it can have on our tax base. Not that I think we're even focused these days on trying to get numbers down, but I think we're looking at increases in the future. And, you know, we're trying to stay under the two. We're trying to keep the taxes low as we can. Very few ways we can do that, and the biggest way we can do it, not just for the downtown, but for the whole village, is by improving the valuation of the properties in the downtown.
And will it block any of the views?
Let's see, there's a view, if I can find it. Okay, right here, you're seeing what's here now. So with the new building, if it has a flat roof, would be 4 feet taller than this ridge. So what you would do is you would be blocking out some of the sky. You're not blocking views of the Hudson, you're not blocking views of the Palisades. One of the ideas of holding back the corners here is, of course, to keep that when not only when you're on Main Street, that it feels like it's stepped back, but also as you're coming down Elm Street, it kind of erodes that corner so that you can get more of the feeling of openness in that spot. When you are behind this building, you're not able to see anything other than sky above that. So the views that you're blocking are views of the sky, not views of the river or the Palisades.
Well, as you know, one of the biggest concerns that we have is, you know, parking in the downtown. So the idea of having a great, beautiful building is fantastic, but the value, you know, minus the issue that we're gonna have with parking is something that is a concern. At least for me, it is.
Sure, although we've kind of gotten interesting input in the last several months. It's really where the parking is located and whether it's free or not. I use those, there's a great book, There's No Such Thing as Free Parking. Donald Shope, who is kind of the guru for that. The issue in Dobbs Ferry is not a lack of parking spaces. The issue in Dobbs Ferry is, can I get the parking space I want at the time that I want it? And that's often in Dobbs, right in front of the store. If it's Sam's, it's at 7 o'clock. Readers is probably around 5:25, when you're rushing to get something and you need to get it the next day. There are ideas that have been talked about. Donna worked very hard with a great group of people, putting together basically a parking study that we, I guess, never quite got to really take off. And one of the things that parking study determined was there was actually a significant number of parking spaces that were available at any given time in the vicinity of the downtown. So it's not like we're starved for it and we can't function without it. It would be nice to make improvements. Probably the best improvement we can make is by the way we're charging for parking. One of the theories is you put the rates on your parking so that you always have 15% available. That reduces people driving around trying to find places to park. But what that would mean is that it might cost you $6 an hour to park in front of Sam's. But
nice parking is what you're talking about.
Exactly. There are people who are far more eloquent about this than I am. You should have Rob Barron come in and he can talk to you.
Premium pricing, right?
Yeah, but I don't, the idea that you would not have two places for people to live because you'd be deficient two parking spaces at very specific times that it could possibly matter. Because most of the time, you've got lots of parking that people could avail themselves, and each unit would have a parking space. So that would mean that, one of the advantages of living in the downtown, you probably don't need to have two cars. When we did the parking study, I think it was 1987 was the first one, no, 1983 was the first one we did another one in 1987, and then we did two in the 2000s. What we found was there were actually, there's a high number of apartments in the downtown where people do not have cars. And there are a lot of people who only have one car, even, the resources and everything, don't own as many cars as they want. But one of the big advantages of living in the downtown is that you can take the train, you can walk to it.
That's in a perfect world.
We don't live in a perfect world, so what we have to do is find balance. And the tax revenue from this, the ability for people to find apartment, we talk about affordable housing, and unfortunately, affordable housing has become excessively defined as if it's rental, it's 60% of adjusted mean income, if it's sales, it's 80% of adjusted mean income. In Dobbs Ferry, we need help with this, with affordable housing at 100% and 120% of adjusted mean income. We heard the numbers that our police officers get. Police officers getting that pay, which is, we pay fairly well. They certainly deserve it. But $129,000 a year doesn't get you a lot of places to live in Dobbs Ferry. So we need to be looking at that. We need to be finding ways that we can create affordable at every level, certainly up to 120% of the adjusted income in Westchester County.
Great.
And that's something we should be working very hard on. I don't know that the temperature is there at the moment for people to be thinking about how desperately we need to create additional places for people.
It will be.
Yeah, well, some of us wear a lot of different hats, and some of the hats that I wear deal with this on a whole different level, which is we're looking at significant migration patterns that are going to be, they're going to be intimidating, and they're happening much sooner than anybody thought. And we're looking at probably by 2025, the first major city effectively being closed down either for lack of water or due to flooding. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that has to be dealt with, and we want to be prepared at Dobbs Ferry to be a sustainable and resilient place.
Well, thank you, Patty, I appreciate it. Okay.
Thanks, Patty.
Sure. Rob?
You're not taking.
We're not taking
We're not taking a vote tonight, no.
vote.
No, I mean, you're not taking public comment. I don't know what
Yeah.
you're doing. Rob Lane, 228 Judson Avenue, Dobbs Ferry. I just want to make sure, I'm on the planning board, which is really what I'm representing, Steve Hunter and me here. I just want to make sure, all of you receive a copy of this.
Yes.
Yes.
letter. So I just want to reiterate the kind of spirit of it and why it came about, just very briefly. This site has a very tortured history. It's been going on in a lot of different ways. And this project, we felt was orders of magnitude better than any of the other things that we have seen in terms of its scale. And in particular, the willingness to preserve the barn structure, which is very important to the community. So, we knew that it was going to be referred back to you all, so that you all could in turn refer it back to us. And in order to spare everyone a lot of pain and suffering, including the applicant, but also the boards, we wanted to make sure that this board was willing to entertain the two key issues that have been cited, that are both discretionary on your part. The additional fourth story in some configuration and some flexibility, however it's worked out around the parking. It is the feeling of the planning board but we wanted this board sooner than later to
Right.
communicate their willingness to entertain that. Otherwise, because if those are deal killers, then the applicant and all the boards and everyone in the village is entitled to know now, rather than going through months and months of something that is going to be dying community here. So that's the kind of spirit of this letter, and we hope that you can refer it back to us and to the HRB so that we can do the work that needs to be done on it. Public hearings will be part of our process, as you know.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Just need
Appreciate it.
a couple weeks.
Considering that there's people in here and we have information, I can say that at the meeting, a few comments based on what I saw briefly.
It's not a public hearing.
But we haven't seen the presentation and now we saw.
I mean, there are people here who'd like to speak about the project, correct? But I don't think, we didn't notice it that way, so I think maybe we can, if we decide to notice it, maybe next time, people to come and speak. What do you guys think?
Well, yeah, next time we could do courtesy of the floor.
Yeah, the planning board is conducting the public hearing, so this is just in response to a letter from the planning board, as it was
I
mentioned.
don't think you all need to call a public hearing to decide whether you're going to refer it back to us.
Right.
We have to conduct those public hearings. Ultimately, it will come back to you. I'm sure you'll hear from the public then too.
Okay.
We have to have a public hearing.
So I think this is an
Okay.
executive decision on your part to go through the formality of referring it back to us.
And I think many people have already written the
Yes.
board on this subject, so.
And we should encourage those who have opinions to share them with the
Yeah.
board. Email is usually the easiest. So by all means, we've gotten a lot of emails, and people should continue to share their opinions.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Patty, thank you. Rob? Consider a motion to authorize the village administrator to enter into an IMA with the city of Yonkers regarding tipping fees for organic yard waste.
Mayor, this is
Excuse me, folks.
Guys, I'm so sorry, but we have to
Can
wrap
you,
up this meeting.
Okay. Charlene, do you want to comment on that?
Yes. This is done on a regular basis with the city of Yonkers. And actually, because they've changed from cubic yards to tons, we're going to save money.
Wow.
So
How did we arrange that?
That's how they want to do it. I'm good with it.
The city of Yonkers, very nice of them.
It's excellent of them.
It's like they don't need the money, huh?
I think they want to just
Okay.
get everyone on the same page.
Right.
Because the cubic yards really does it through how much air is in the cubic yard. Like sometimes they're compressed, and it's not really very interesting, but sometimes it's compressed and sometimes
Right.
it's not. But by the ton, there's a real weight there.
Okay, great. Thank you, Charlene. Do I have a motion? Trustee Nell, second trustee Taylor. All in favor? 6-0. Consider a motion to accept the change orders pursuant to the memo by George Palmer for the construction of the Embassy Center.
Well, you have numerous pages of that in the agenda. Many of those changes have to do with changes that were not really contemplated in the beginning, and in fact, we weren't sure how we were going to do the technology. Now that we're sure that we're doing the technology in a certain way, those are extra added
Okay.
amounts.
That will improve our AV, et cetera?
It will, yes.
Improve everything.
We will be state-of-the-arts.
Great. So do I have a motion? Trustee Rosillo, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? 6-0. Let me see here. Discussion of possible revisions to Section 300-54 of the Village of Dobbs Ferry zoning code to reflect certain actions by the Federal Communications Commission, and consider a resolution to schedule a public hearing on April 9th, 2019. Lori Lee, are you going to comment on this?
I am prepared for this. I sent a late memo to you which outlines my presentation, and if you don't have it in front of you, I have copies available, and also if the public is interested, because we're going to talk about this presentation in public, so I can shut these down. Recent rulemaking by the FCC last September has significantly limited local municipalities' ability with the citing of this new technology coming out to support the 5G, the fifth generation of wireless technology. The 5G antennas will be 100 times faster, but they don't have nearly the reach of the current technology. In other words, the current technology, that being monopoles and large antennas with repeaters and digital assist, small digital assist antennas, reach up to a 10-mile distance. The new 5G technology, the facilities themselves will reach only 1,000 feet. So they'll need to reach densities by increasing the numbers of antennas.
Small antennas.
Small antennas, and they're proposing to do this mostly in the public rights of way. So the FCC dealt with rulemaking in September, which clearly established what's left for regulatory agencies, legislative agencies such as yourself, in terms of how you can deal with the siting of these antennas. The 5G antennas are significantly smaller in size. They're about the size of a large, let's see.
Cylinder?
Box, some Amazon box that you would receive on your, and the equipment is larger, sort of double the size of that. It isn't clear to me from the research whether they'll need an equipment cabinet, for want of a better word, to accommodate each and every one of these thousands and thousands that we're expecting in the right-of-way. They're going to mostly install these on existing structures where available. It's a densification that's necessary in order for the technology to work. It will not work in concert with the current and existing telecom facilities that you already have in the region. 5G will be rolled out nationwide. There's a push for this to be happening quickly. It's kind of like the race for the moon. In this case, it's the race for 5G, to roll it out nationwide. In this area, generally they'll be in the right-of-way or on existing structures or existing lampposts or existing traffic control devices, and this rulemaking has limited your ability to inhibit or regulate the location and the siting of these antennas. They have also limited your ability to collect fees. In other words, rental fees for use and maintenance of your own right-of-way. It will be limited in a dramatic scope to actual costs that you can calculate for the maintenance of the right-of-way or for the use of your own infrastructure. So they're suggesting also a limitation on the application fee, and their suggested price is $100 for the first 5 if they're batched, and then $500 for the next batch. I mean, they're significantly limiting your ability. Under your current code, you're covering the more conventional current generation and covering it quite adequately. But they're suggesting that you should be drafting in the areas that are left for you, which is aesthetics and safety, those kinds of things.
So they're suggesting, the pundits are suggesting at this point that you should be looking at drafting aesthetic criteria for the placement of these multitudes of antennas that are coming. Each provider will be bringing its own equipment, so it's very possible that each telephone pole or traffic control device will have 2 or 3 of these antennas, 5G antennas. They're called small cell sites each. And it's very unlikely that when the providers, the Verizons of the world, the T-Mobiles of the world, when they come with these applications, they won't come one at a time. They'll be coming for a stretch of road, which could include 10, 15, 20 at a time. The other rulemaking, which is very limiting for you, is that there's now a new shot clock. In other words, you must adhere to a very strict time schedule in order to review these and provide an opinion as to the acceptability and the conditions under which you would accept these in the right-of-way. It's a very quick turnaround. It's going to be difficult to do these because it's going to be coming in batched. So you'll get 3 providers with 15 cell sites each, and the shot clock will be running simultaneously with all of those sightings. The other thing they've done is they've broadly defined co-location to include if it's going on an existing structure, it's going to be treated as a co-location, whether or not there are other telecom facilities on that same structure. Right now, co-location is defined in your code in the traditional 4G and the earlier generations as co-location being preferable because it would be a cell site joining a cell site that's already available and existing. So for the foreseeable future, you'll have the older generation still up and running, and then this 5G rollout, which is coming, we're told it's going to come like a tsunami. There are a couple of places in the country that have this rollout, and generally for economies of scale, they're choosing to roll them out in very densely populated areas. So it isn't likely that you're going to get hit right out of the gate. It's much more likely that the boroughs, some of the larger cities upstate, maybe Albany, Syracuse, Buffalo, because the providers want to get this out quickly. And they're obviously, as you can see from the FCC rulings, they're being enabled to do that very quickly. There is a deadline that is listed in the FCC ruling of April 15th. That's not to scare you, that's to just say, that's why I put it on for you if you wanted to consider quickly to draft something with the aesthetic criteria. We can accomplish that for you, but that being said, the only thing that will happen if you miss the April 15th deadline is it means if you should get any applications prior to an actual adoption of a local law with this criteria, those applications would be judged under your current code. You do have aesthetic criteria in your current code. Of course, we would need to gear up to meet the shot clock. But if you wanted to look at this, step back and look at this, because I know you're doing a lot of work with your historic downtown and historic areas, and you want to be sure that the aesthetic criteria will meet the needs of these areas that you're valuing for your community. So you can see in my memo at the end, you know, the input that I'll need especially is that who will have the jurisdiction for approving these applications. Right now, all of your older generation, current generation facilities are going to your AHRB, thank you. They're all going there for approval, for site plan approval. These will not have the value of the time it's going to take to do a site plan approval. These will need to be a permit specifically designed to meet the needs of this densification, this 5G technology, which is going to be rolled out thickly, in general areas. So you can either choose to send these to them, and we'll need to work with them in terms of how they'll be able to meet the needs of the shot clock. You can retain jurisdiction and deal with it here, or you can send it to the planning board, or for their review as well. So it can't be referred out and referred back. You're not going to have enough time because you only have 60 days from the day that the application lands on the desk to take action.
Is it possible to give the authority to the building official and then an appeal to the board?
To give the authority to the building inspector to approve these?
Approve applications?
To approve them directly.
To approve them directly, and then if he refuses them, to have it appealed to the board of trustees?
There's very strict language in the FCC order. Basically, you can't refuse because that would be prohibitive. And since the nationwide trend is to roll this out and to encourage the rollout, the ability that you have would be to designate aesthetic requirements and criteria that it would need to meet.
But what if they don't need it?
Well, that's the thing, is that they would need to meet these aesthetic requirements. The codes that I looked at, it's an interesting concept. You could possibly do this by virtue of a review from your planning inspector. That certainly sounds like it could be tailored that way. But a denial, the right of a denial in that case would be an Article 78 proceeding. I don't think that we could usurp the statutory authority, the statutory ability for an applicant who's refused something
But it's
to
more
go.
just saving it so that it doesn't have to go to AHRB and then back to us, the whole site plan approval, trying to
Chrissy,
avoid that.
that really is my point. I
Yeah.
mean, we're gonna get,
As long
I
as
would
we do
imagine,
the-
barrage with this.
Bombarded with it,
you
yeah.
know.
But as long as we do the legwork in the beginning and we set the aesthetics in the
Right.
beginning,
That
then
Ed
can
could,
take it
and
from there.
I think because it is sort of a ministerial decision that the board, and that's my thoughts on the subject, the board can make the ultimate decision if the building inspector has some questions. And I think that would be more appropriate than giving it to the planning board or the AHRB, because, they're volunteers, as you are pretty
Right.
much. But if we can do it in-house, I'm sure Ed is gonna love this. But if
We
we
should,
can do it in-house and review it, unfortunately, this does not bode well for us on a variety of levels.
Except for our Verizon coverage.
Doesn't
That
look
would
like we
probably
have a lot of
break.
wiggle room
We
on.
have no wiggle room.
Yeah.
One of the questions I do have is, if we don't have poles, what do they do? Will
They can install a structure upon which to attach this. It would not be considered a co-location, so that there would be an additional level of a way that you can require, for example, a setback of a pole, or
But you can't refuse it.
it's almost virtually impossible to deny the
All right.
application outright, unless you have the criteria with which you can base your decision. In other words, it has to be a reasoned decision based on predetermined criteria. So there needs to be a finding that they meet, or they don't meet, or they meet somewhat, or, so.
And my understanding is that it doesn't have to be fully aesthetic. I mean, aesthetics will not rule the day.
Correct. Aesthetics will not rule the day, because you can see in the language that I quoted in the memo, they're very clearly limiting what you can do
Right.
to inhibit
Okay.
these from occurring.
We should, Charlene, bring this up on the agenda of the next VOC meeting. I know that's after the 15th.
Yeah, we've been talking about it
Yeah.
And again, the 15th means, should you be served with an application for an antenna on the 16th and you haven't promulgated this law by the 15th, it just means that review will have to occur under the current code.
But chances are they're going to New York City before they come to Dobbs Ferry.
This is my opinion. My opinion is they're going to, for economies of scale, they will be rolling out, because there are no sites in New York right now. The sites are in Texas, California, and they're just pockets. So the rollout will happen, but in order for them to be able to gear up to do a region, if you can imagine, it's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of sites.
I mean, a couple of thoughts. One is, I think we're getting into a lot more detail right now than, because we don't have any information in front of us. Number two, there has to be much better information if this is being rolled out nationally in terms of the way other communities are handling it, including model legislation. And number three, if we're worried about April 15th, we could pass something and then change it. So get something better than what we have. It might be temporary if it's the building inspector, subject to the board's approval or some streamlined process, and then modify it again, presumably. We're not locked into whatever we choose between now and April.
No, you are not.
So-
But the I guess what I'm saying is the risk is low that they're going to be coming to Dobbs Ferry right out of the gate. So if you wanted to promulgate and start to review a draft, there is no model legislation available. The town of Bedford and the city of Beacon are the only two areas locally that I saw they had drafted criteria. I have also spoken to NICOM, and I've also spoken to fellow corporation counsel from a roundtable I sit on at Pace University, and have confirmed, in fact, that that's the case. Right now it's Beacon and Bedford. And I have their legislation, and I have some of the language that's been suggested that they're using, but it's also tailored to the needs of those communities. So I can give you, I can tell you
why don't you
what I
pass-
would recommend. Your current code has the wireless telecommunication services facility at 300-54R. I would suggest that you don't amend that because, like I said, the current technology is going to be continuing, and it's also going to be embellished and improved because, believe it or not, the phones you have now are not going to, they're not going to actually take 5G. You're going to need a new piece of equipment as well. So
Why don't,
For- this is-
Lori Lee, why don't you pass around the other communities' legislation or proposed legislation?
they both have passed legislation, and it's again,
Yeah.
it's extremely confusing because it's geared toward their communities.
Right.
And I have like one copy of each because
Yeah,
I
well,
was
you don't
sug-
have to do it now, I mean.
Right, but what I was suggesting is that you add a new section, 354S, that just deals with the 5G.
That's probably a good idea, yeah.
Will define the small cell applications and the permit necessary, because it can't be a full-blown, again, full-blown site plan approval, because you don't have time to notice and schedule a public hearing. And
Right.
the other interesting thing in the research is that there's no discussion in the rulemaking about how it dovetails with any other statutory limitations of time, such as seeker. If you don't have an expanded type 2 list here in the village, and there's no way for you to add 5G small cell permits to that type 2, you would have to make a seeker determination for each and every application that comes in. And there's no way, it doesn't, the FCC order does not allow you to toll outright because of your need to do seeker. So this is why it's important for you to establish a single entity, either yourselves or a board or an individual of some authority, to do the approval, because they will need to do a seeker determination, type 2, unlisted, whatever, and move on from there. So because it is necessary before any action is taken on a permit like this, that you determine its significance to the environment. It's required by another area of a state law.
So, I mean, do you want to take a shot at drafting something and circulating it to the board?
Well,
That
I
we
just
could address
needed,
at the-
I needed the guidance on the jurisdiction, and that's an important aspect of this, because if it becomes more of a ministerial thing, then it becomes an easier fix. But you'll also need, because you're amending your zoning code, you'll also need to take on seeker to determine the significance of what you're doing. So, you know, there are timelines that will need to run simultaneously for you to draft and to adopt a local law of this nature.
Okay.
I will work with Charlene and.
Yeah, make a recommendation. We'll move forward.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
is you thinking that you would retain jurisdiction, or that you would like to look at this ministerial aspect?
I think we need to.
We need to think about it.
We need to learn some more about this. But this isn't, you know, I mean, I think we need to study this in a little bit more detail, but.
I agree.
Okay.
And what we'll do is we'll sit down with Ed and Laura Lee, myself, and we'll put something together that we're comfortable with, and then, and you look at it. If you're not, we'll change it.
Okay.
And I think looking at what other communities are doing or planning,
Yeah.
if that's,
Yeah, we have been in contact.
Or-
Actually, nobody knows what to do with this.
but they gotta be doing something in
Yeah.
Texas, and that's gotta be
Yeah.
public, right? So.
Right.
And everybody's in budget right now. so
Right.
it's hard to-
And
It would be also good
in
to know
both
what we're talking-
cases.
Like what this looks like, what you're describing it, you know, like an Amazon
Yeah,
box.
In
or
both-
we'll
something like that.
show, yeah, I can find pictures of it. I've been sort of following this, and they're looking at the small cell as a utility and a
Right.
necessity. And
The new power lines.
Yeah, it
Yes.
really is, and that really, we shouldn't really have any say over it.
Right.
However, it's sort of, we don't know what it's gonna look like
The
anymore.
new power lines.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you?
And you know, eventually, like with the power lines, they took all the control out of your hands, and this could very well be the result of federal legislation down the line, that no matter what you do, they're going to take the control away from the local localities because of the interests of the health, safety, and welfare of the, you know, the masses. This is going to be especially important. This technology will be especially important. I mean, it sounds great, AI and artificial intelligence and, you know, gaming and, you know, all that stuff. But really, this is going to be important for the self-driving cars, which we have been told are the wave of the future, and also in the healthcare industry. Your paramedics or your EMTs will go to a site and be able to run health tests with the aid of an actual MD who is remote from the scene. I mean, the downloading speeds and the uploading speeds are exponentially better than what you have now. And so the healthcare industry it's a big push for the healthcare industry, and it's also a huge push for transportation.
There's
Okay.
no question that these have a lot of benefits. The problem is that the regulations were sort of shoved through. They replaced one of the FCC, actually two of the FCC people on the board who are very, very firm, non-regulatory people. And so they're shoving this through, and they shoved it through without very much thought on how it's going to affect anybody. Although it's very helpful, we don't know what the effects are going to be.
But the fact that you have to turn it around in 60 days or 90
Well, no,
days, if it's not co-location, which, like I said, if they're going to be building a pole, 90 days, it's going to be a very tight timeline. And I don't want you to rush thinking April 15th is going to, you know, the world's going to end.
Okay.
So,
We're gonna
Thanks.
take our time.
yeah.
All right.
Except for right now, we won't be
Well,
starving.
Consider, we'll move on to number 5. Consider a motion to approve ordinance number 3.
That's just discussion.
yeah.
It's just discussion.
Consider, well, it says consider a
Motion.
schedule public hearing on April 9th. I think we need to
schedule a hearing for a
We
public.
need to schedule a public hearing April 9th?
Yes.
Well, unless we have a local law drafted and ready for circulation, and
Then this-
it would
yeah,
probably
fine.
be
We're gonna put it over.
We'll have to
soon,
put it.
too soon, to hold a public hearing.
Okay. So consider a motion to approve audits number 3 and number 4 for March 2019 as recommended by the village treasurer. Jeff, any?
I don't
Comments?
have any comments on this.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, before we go too far, I just wanted to, next week, or next meeting, we were gonna have the budget presentation, and I wasn't sure if we needed to schedule a public hearing for that. No.
No, the public hearing will be after the board's budget is ready to go. In other words, this is a presentation of the preliminary budget. Right, tentative budget,
So
yeah.
it would be the
And if you-
following meeting in
then you-
April,
Yeah,
the second meeting in April.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it will be after the tentative budget is received ceremoniously, and you make any changes, and then you set the public hearing once the budget's been accepted.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve orders number 3 and number 4? Trustee Taylor, second. Trustee Rosillo, all in favor?
You and those names.
You lost me.
It's almost 10 o'clock.
Consider a motion to set the date for the 2019 Holiday Hustle 5K race on December 8th, 2019.
This works for me.
Trustee DeRozzi, second. Trustee Nell, all in favor? Okay, minutes from March 12th, 2019. Now, we don't need a motion for minutes. That's the new,
No, you routinely adopt them. I mean, you
Okay.
routinely approve them, but there's no law that requires you to do that. So you would just go ahead and do what your routine procedure is. I would not recommend changing.
Any comments? Okay. So we'll take a vote, a motion to trustee DeRozzi, second. Trustee Nell, all in favor?
But Bob wasn't there, so he's not
Wasn't
voting.
there, you can't vote.
You
Oh.
can still vote, though.
Yes, he
I could still
Oh,
vote.
That's right.
Chris, it doesn't matter.
We established that last time.
I beg your pardon, trustee Nell.
Thank God you're here.
Okay. Reports and announcements. Trustee DeRozzi?
Well, on the topic of the Youth Service Council, I am happy to report that our Youth Service Council partnered with the high school, so big thank you to Lisa Brady for her support. And our high schoolers actually were involved in creating and writing a piece that is an anti-vaping public service announcement. It was a film on the 16th of this month. These kids worked with this crew for 10 consecutive hours. They did a fantastic job, and this is going to enter actually a competition. And the final product, which is now in post-production, will be released soon. But we were very happy to see all the kids coming together to work, and I want to send a big thank you to Jonathan, Kate Mann, Kelly Foster, of course Barry Sherman, our chair, Justin Kincaid, which we all know, Helene, and as well as Joe Cox. They all worked very hard on this day. I was unfortunately not able to join them because it was DI day in competition, and it was a very, very hectic day, but they did such an amazing job, and I think that Barry and the whole Youth Council is extremely proud of the work that the kids did. The Youth Service Council do have some coming up events. There is a event that is going to take place in the Westchester County Center on April 1st, which is April Fool's Day, and this event is to bring awareness on safer topics that involve allowing the children to speak on the topic of it was to bring awareness about flavored juice, nicotine, so something on that nature, which you know that is our effort. So the kids had the open floor to speak about that. There is also a rally on April 11 and April 20th in the Westchester Medical Center, and this event is based on prescription use and abuse. And on April 26th, there is a private gym night that will take place for our high school. There is also on April 27, it is when the prescription take back day takes place, which is the police department places a container outside, and everyone is welcome to come and dispose any expired or non-in-use medicine or prescription drugs that is better to dispose than to keep it around. And this is, also one of the efforts of the Youth Service Council. There will be a table outside for like an hour. Also building awareness about that. And on April 27, there is a Heron Project 3-on-3 basketball game in memory of Nolan Rich in the high school, and I know that Justin is very, very involved in that. But, these guys continue to do amazing work to try to bring awareness in our community and get our youth engaged. So for those adults that they are still watching, please engage your youth to get involved. I continue to try to engage mine. So, sometimes they don't understand that this is important and that this is a bunch of fun, and we try to make it as fun as possible for them. So I really encourage you to please push them to attend and join us. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Trustee. Trustee Nell?
Chamber of Commerce meeting tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. at Rarebit on Cedar. And they're having a women's networking event on April 11th. It's the fourth one. It's at HUDCO, this co-working space in Dobbs Ferry. And if there's anybody interested in beautification and gardening in Dobbs Ferry, please reach out. We are looking for a chair for the committee. Fill out the application online, hit volunteer now, and Liz will take care of you. That's it.
Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Rizzo?
I don't have anything.
Nothing? Trustee Taylor?
The only thing I would do is follow up on your comments about the budget. Next board meeting, we're going to present, Jeff will present the tentative budget. Would actively encourage anybody who wants to learn more about how their tax dollars get spent to come to that meeting and learn more about the budget.
Great. Trustee?
Yeah. Seniors, the senior citizen
Penny
program.
Social?
Yeah, the very, very popular Penny Social will take place on Tuesday, April 9th from 11 to 1 p.m. at the, we'll be here at the firehouse downstairs. On Friday, April 5th, the Mercy College Health Fair will take place at the Senior Center downstairs. The graduate students from Mercy College will be presenting interactive and informational health tips. They'll be screening for balance. They'll be talking about skin care, and general health and technology that the seniors can use to help keep track of their health. And then with the library, Gray Matters Doo-Wop concert on Tuesday, April 23rd, and that will be at the library at 1 p.m. So.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a few things. The budget is very important, so if you have an interest, and hopefully you do, and we'll be speaking about that over the next month. We do have Spring Community Partners. We met with them, and they're doing some wonderful things for the village, and they're always looking for contributions to help underprivileged people, attend some of our programs, et cetera. So whatever you feel you can do to help them out would be terrific. And I have to take a motion, right?
Wait, real fast. Everybody get your tickets to the Dobbs Ferry Schools Foundation Gala on May 10th.
May 10th.
May 10th is the party.
Oh, fantastic. So we'll see you there.
I'll be there.
May 10th. I'll take a motion to close the meeting. Oh, Liz. Sorry, Liz. I'm always looking down here.
I just had one thing, Mayor. On April 9th, the Westchester County Clerk's mobile office will be here from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. They park on Main Street or in front of the police station. You could go in there and get passport application taken care of, pictures, everything. They do everything right there. So It's April 9th from 11 to 2. It's a really big convenience for the residents, and we actually advertise it with the post office so they can tell
Right.
people coming in, so, thank you.
Great. I'll take a motion then to close the meeting. Motion. Trustee Taylor, second trustee Nell, all in favor?